Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Con Magician, and I've got something interesting to share with you. I'm taking a break from doing some film scoring. I've been doing a little bit earlier today, and I don't know if I've ever actually talked about this particular issue at length. I think I've touched on it a little bit here and there in association with some other topics. What brought me to this was a comment that I got maybe a month ago on another video where I was looking at table washes. So falsifying table washes in various ways, controlling cards in a table wash, or even committing a blind table wash. And in that video, I do something without explanation, and I think I did it on the assumption that the viewers would understand what was going on. But someone made a comment about he talks about all this washing and then that happens. And then I explained, well, that's just a very simple procedure, but I don't think I've ever really talked about the procedure. That one in particular. I'm going to deal with that, but also another thing related to it. This is pure gambling demonstration stuff that I do. I guess this fits under the tricks that I do. Impromptu gambling demonstrations with a shuffled deck in use. This is not complicated. This is not difficult. This is not going to really, pique the interest of a gambling card cheating aficionado. Okay, this isn't like high level card handling. Okay, this is for the basic. This is for the common magician. Basic strategies for the common magician, but very, very. I think not just accessible, but very, very effective strategies too, especially in an impromptu situation, just to demonstrate some card cheating. Essentially in card cheating, what are you demonstrating in a gambling demo? You're demonstrating a hand of poker, probably poker, probably some kind of game that people know, and demonstrating that you can control the outcome. It's as simple as that. And really, you don't need a lot in order to do that very thing. So just as an example, I'm going to show you a few different strategies that I tend to use. Cards, again, mixed up, nothing in particular about them. And the first part of the strategy that we'll talk about has to do with getting cards that you need, where you need them, for when you need them. So that's part of the issue, and that's what's going on right now. So I've got cards where I need them for when I need them, and also you can either follow the track of a normal procedure in a card game, or you can cheat a little bit, because most people are not interested when you're doing a gambling demonstration. They're not interested in all of the details of a game actually being accounted for. But in this case, I could have them cut. I could say, well, we shuffle the cards, and of course, to make it fair, you would go ahead and cut the deck, and they would cut. And then the next thing that I like to ask, and I can do this for both. This is probably the easier way to do it, and technically the easier way to do it, but also the more, there's greater heat in this variation of it, but it is also technically more accessible, I think, in a way. I asked them, how many hands do you want, and which hand should be the winning hand, right? So I've got a couple dice here. We'll roll them. Four hands. Fourth hand, which would actually be me, will be the winning hand. So 4 hands, winning hand is the dealer, right? So we'll do this Texas Hold'em style, and there's a reason for that too. I'll talk about. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to burn a card, and then we have the the flop, 3 cards in the flop. Then we burn a card, then we have the turn, right? So we have the, is that right? Yeah, the burn, turn. And then the last one is the river, right? Last one's the river. So you can see that we have here all the way around the table, position 1 has a pair of kings. Position 2 has a pair of 4s. Okay, so hand 1 wins so far, or position 1. Position 3 has nothing at all. But my position, which is the 4th position out of 4, is the winning hand because I have the flush. So I have a flush in clubs, right? So this is one demonstration of it. I'm going to show you this one, which should be apparent to most of you what's going on here, and some of the really, really accessible ways to make this work. You don't have to make it any harder than it needs to be, because most people are not aware of what is appropriate in a game and what is not. And then I'll show you a less accessible, but also, I don't know how to put this. There's more to do in version 2, but it's also less sleight heavy when the heat is on. And in version 2, you can actually let someone else deal it as well. So version 1 is simple. It's operating off of a bottom deal. And again, I'm not going to really teach the bottom deal other than to say that I always go for the Erdenay's bottom deal whenever I have a deck of cards, impromptu situation. Hands are what they are. They're not, particularly sticky. They're not treated in any way. I find that I can do an Erdenay's bottom deal at any moment. That's when I do tells and all. This is not for card cheating people. This is for real spectators in a real impromptu environment. That's the one I do. Okay. So the way I call the cards is simple. I'll usually start by spreading them out like that. Okay. If you have an impromptu moment where a hand has just been played and you're in the middle of a game and you kind of stop the action for a game and you do a trick, you could actually pick things up from what's face up on the table and do your setup in that way, which is actually the more common way. It's the most common way that card cheating calling would be done, is by taking by opportunity whatever's face up from the last hand. What I'm doing though is whenever I spread, I take a quick look. I'm looking for like 2 or maybe 3 or 4 of the same suit in a row. And as I quickly scan through, I see several places where I see that. I see 3 diamonds here. I see 3 clubs over here. I see 3 clubs over here. Okay. So what I want to do is I just want to get those 3 to the top. So I'm going to go for the diamonds. I have 7, 8, and 2 of diamonds. I'm going to pick up the spread, pinch at the card above it, push off, and then shift it to the top. Just a very open table shift. So I know I've got 3 diamonds at the top. Now I'm going to do a face-up shuffle, overhand shuffle, but face up. So what I do is I tilt it in so optically it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Nobody's really thinking about the condition of the deck, which way it's facing. If they can't see what the side is, no one's really curious about the situation with the deck. A lot of people actually shuffle face up even when they shouldn't do that. But I do a face up call. So this is a face up overhand shuffle call. So what I'm doing is I'm just thumbing off card for card until I hit a diamond. So I have spade, club, heart, heart, spade, club, heart, diamond. I thumb off the diamond and I put this whole packet back on the bottom. Then I thumb that diamond to the top. That gives me 4 diamonds. So I already have 3 that I got from the spread shift. I've got 4 now. Now I'm going to go back for more. I'm going to drop a packet because I've already been through these cards, and then continue on running cards one at a time until I see a diamond. I have a jack of diamonds, and I'm going to thumb that off and put that on the top as well. Now what I do is I turn over the deck and I continue shuffling, and now I'm just going to thumb all 5 cards, run the top 5 cards to the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to shuffle fairly on top of that. That's it. I'm not covering anything. I'm not being sneaky about doing an in-jog shuffle, a jog shuffle, and then shuffling off and dropping at the break. It doesn't need to be. You can run cards because the next thing I'm going to do is have them cut. And this is a really, really simple way to nullify a cut. Is you don't really have to deal with the cut at all in terms of nullification because we're not interested in the top cards. We're interested in the bottom cards. So what I do is I'll say, go ahead and cut about half the cards. They'll cut, and then I pick up the bottom, and then I just start dealing from where they cut. Now, this is not really off-putting to most people because that's the whole point. They're thinking about these cards that they've cut into. And I play, friendly games with people of Hold'em and other poker games where people just do this automatically. They don't realize that this is not appropriate, that the cut really should be completed and you should not pick up from the bottom, because part of what the cut is supposed to be doing is not only freshening up the top of the deck, but it should also be burying what could have been controlled to the bottom in any of the shuffling. People aren't aware of that, so I take advantage of it. And 9 times out of 10, rather than trying to do a shift, I'll just pick up the bottom if I'm dealing with bottom dealing. Okay, so now I've got my 5 diamonds at the bottom, and I've got a fresh spot here that I can deal from. So we need a number of hands in the position that we want to have a winning hand. 5, position 1. So 5 positions. The first one is going to be the winning hand. Now, one thing to know about this, for those of you that do some bottom dealing, the benefit of dealing from a cut halfway into the deck is that a smaller packet of cards, half the cards, is significantly easier to bottom deal from, particularly for an Erdnase bottom deal. There's a lot less motion that has to happen and a lot better grip that you can get on the cards because there's not so many items there that you have in play that you're dealing with. The thickness really does matter. So having half the cards makes this easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to deal all of the pocket cards out, but I'm going to bottom deal 2 pocket cards to position 1 because those are going to be 2 diamonds that I need to have them in the pocket, right? So the first one, and I usually take my time with this. As they say with trick dealing, rhythm is more important than speed. And if you can be a little extemporaneous about this and a little bumbling about it, you can even break the rhythm, especially if you're speaking and talking, kind of narrating what you're doing. Normally when we're doing a magic trick, if you're doing a trick, you don't want to narrate what you're about to do. But this is not a trick. We can actually narrate everything and explain explicitly what we're doing. And that talking, that explanation does allow you to get away with a lot of rhythmic breaks and makes trick dealing a lot easier. So that's something I found too. So number 1 out of 5 is going to get it. So the very first one's going to be a bottom. So I'm just going to bottom, top, 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 bottom, top, 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 top. And you can see, indeed, I've got 2 diamonds over here. Okay. Now I do have to say, why a flush? Why not something else? For 2 reasons. A flush is a very high hand in poker. It's very high. And it's also the easiest one to cheat with in terms of, apart from just cheating with like 2 pocket cards, getting just like a pair of pocket aces would be very easy to get. But it's very easy to run up a flush. It's very easy to acquire any 5 cards that are the same suit. So that's why I do a flush on this, because there's not a lot that'll beat it, and it's very easy to get. So 9 times out of 10, whenever I'm doing some kind of gambling demonstration from an impromptu situation that's not been set up, I usually will do a flush. Okay. Also, doing this in Texas Hold'em style means that there's less trick dealing that has to be done in rhythm, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn a top card. I'm going to bottom deal 2 out of the flop, the first and the third out of the flop, unless I accidentally get a diamond here. If I accidentally get a diamond, I'm going to forget about one of my bottoms. I'll just take what is given to me by advantage, right? So I burn. Now I'm going to flop. Now, another thing about the stud bottom deals, rather than kick the card out and turn it top for bottom, in for out like this, I find that this is a lot easier to do if I'm dealing straight, if I deal out and turn the inside under and the back over. Okay, so if I'm doing this, dealing in this manner, it's a lot easier to do a bottom deal rather than do a stud deal over the top like that, okay, which I've commonly heard referred to as a stud, where you're taking them off and dropping them face down. I'm assuming because of the game. 5 or 7 card stud where a lot of cards are facing up. So I'm going to deal the bottom deal out this way. Now, the one thing you want to remember when you're bottom dealing going in this way, even though it is more accessible, the one thing you want to be sure of is that you clear the card from the deck before you turn it over. Because if, when you do the bottom, and I'll show you here the first bottom, I kick the bottom out. If I start turning this over before it's cleared, it's very evident that it came from the bottom. However, if I clear the deck first and then turn it over, this looks clean. This looks legitimate, okay? So diamond, I'm going to give a top. Now, if this were a diamond, I would forget about the next bottom because advantageously, I just got one, and I don't need to have more diamonds out there than what I need. I want to only have the 3 that I need to make this flush. And I'm also going on the opportunity, the likelihood that nobody else has 2 diamonds. We'll just turn these over and take a look. And that can happen, by the way. You can have this wrong. That is the case. Okay, nobody else has 2 diamonds, but you can see that 3 of these do have 1 diamond. So I don't need 4 diamonds out there. Okay, so I have a club. The next one's going to be a bottom. Sorry, I'm going to push the top, take the bottom, turn it over after it clears, burn, and then I'm going to give a fair top here for the turn, which is a heart, and that's good. If this was a diamond, then I would not bottom deal anymore. I would just turn the next one over and hope that I don't nail a diamond. And it would be very unlikely because I know that I have already 5 diamonds in play here. And if some other diamonds are showing up, the probability of hitting more diamonds would be much decreased. Okay, so that's a heart. And now I'm going to burn for the river. And I burn a real card. And then I bottom deal the last one. And that gives me the flush on the river on the last card. And then there it is. Flush beats everything else that's on the table. I think we have 3 of a kind. Flush beats 3 of a kind. We have 7, 8, 10, no, nothing. Okay, so I don't see anything else. 6, 7, 8. No, there's nothing, no straights, nothing like that. So the flush is there. Okay, so that's the first version. I prefer to do that way more often than not if I'm going to be the one handling the cards. However, there can be a very strong situation if you stack the deck. And this is what I was doing on that table wash presentation, is I actually stacked in real time 4 aces. And we'll do the same thing with a flush again. So again, I start by spreading out. I actually see 4 diamonds in a row, probably related to what I just did, even though I shuffled. So I'm going to pinch. Advantageously, I've got 4 diamonds on the top. I've got a diamond on the bottom. I'm going to run that one to the top. That gives me 5 diamonds already. You can see how quickly you can get some cards together. So I've got 5 diamonds. Oh, I'm actually short. Good thing I checked. I must have separated one. So let's run one in. There we go. Now I've got 5 diamonds. 5 diamonds on the bottom. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack this up. Now here's my formula for stacking. If you want to set this in a specific place, you want to know how many hands and who the winning hand is at the beginning before you finish the shuffling, because you have to stack from that. Otherwise, you could just stack an outcome that is known. So let me first talk about just stacking an outcome that's known without soliciting anything, okay? Let's say it'll be 4 hands and the dealer wins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle from my bank of 5 diamonds on the bottom. I'm going to run 1 on the top and milk the bottom. So I'm stripping 2 cards. I'm thumbing off the top one, running 1, stripping the bottom. That's 1. Then I'm going to do it again. Then I'm going to do it again. So now what I've done is I've put a diamond with an indifferent card above it 3 times. So I've got 3 diamonds here with an indifferent card above. This is going to be for the flop and the turn and the river, the table cards, the community cards. Okay, that's dealt with here. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to run off the hands in terms of how many people there are and where the outcome's going to be. So if I'm going to do 4 hands and it's going to be the dealer, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run 1 card from the top, milk the bottom, and then I'm going to run 3 more cards on top of this. So I'm going to count 1, I'm sorry, 2 more cards. 1, that's the double. 2, 3. So I've put 3 cards on top of a diamond. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to milk, 2, 3. So in terms of the actual number of times you thumb off, it's -1 of the total, because on the first one, you're actually running 2 cards. And the bottom card is actually the card of interest. Okay. So now what I've done is I've run 3 cards on top of a card of interest, 3 cards on top of a card of interest, 1 card on a card of interest, another one on a card of interest, and another one on a card of interest. That's the stack. Now, if I want to, I can just throw this on top and be done with it. Or if I want to make it a little bit more deceitful, or deceptive, not deceitful, but deceptive, I will in-jog 1 card and then do a jog shuffle. So I shuffle fairly, pick up at the in-jog with a break, and then I shuffle off fairly till I get to the break, and then I throw it on top, and that's my stack. Okay. Now, what I can do here is a couple of things. If I'm doing it this way, sometimes I will just say it's important to cut. I'll do a false swing cut. So I'm just doing a swing cut in the hand, take the top, put the bottom on the table, put the top back on the bottom. If I want them to cut, I'll need to do a shift. So I could say, go ahead and cut. They'll cut. I forward jog, pick up. I grab the break with the pinky back here. My favorite shift at the table is I'll usually talk and narrate what's going to happen. I'll gesture and talk and say, now we said 4 hands and it'll be the dealer, right? Then I'll reach back, biddle grip on the top part. I move it forward and bring the back faceward like this. And so this is going to be a one of these shifts. What's the name of this? It's escaping my mind. Anyway, it's not a classic shift, but it's going to be the top is going to be transposed onto the bottom like this. So I'm going to push forward like that, and then I'm going to flip back on the bottom part so that it's now in this situation. And then what I do is from here, so this is the whole thing again, push forward, flip, and this is what they're looking at, and I usually hold it like this while I'm talking. And then what I'll do is I'll lay these cards back on top and tap it on the table to square. Okay, so at speed, it kind of looks like this. They cut, I pick this up, I get my break, I might gesture and talk real quick. And you can actually sit like this. The deck's actually split right now. I can sit like this for a while, and there's nothing really, suspicious about it as I'm talking, and then I'll just do a squaring motion. My favorite, that's my favorite kind of shift. Some kind of a big motion to cover, a big motion to cover the small motion that's going on in the shift there with that squaring motion. But honestly, I'll do a false cut more often than not. And I'll say it's important that you cut the cards, and then I'll go on from there. So now the nice thing is I can deal it out without any moves. And this is when the heat is on. The heat is on now. They're looking for trickery now, and there's no trickery, right? I can just deal out. There's my pocket diamonds. And now the way it's set up is I can burn, and I'll get essentially the same outcome. Diamond, diamond, burn card, and then on the turn I'll get my third diamond. Now, hopefully nobody has a 10 or a 9. I can't even remember what wins, if it's a straight or a flush over it. But I should be good. And we're good. Pair of queens. Nothing else. Okay. And I've actually got 1 more card to go. So pair of aces. That's it. So as I said, there is a formula to place the cards of interest at a specific position in the stack. And it's a simple formula if you look at it the way I look at it. I think it's very easy to remember this. So let's get something here. Six hands. We'll do a big number so we can look at the kind of, the possibilities here. And not in the last position. That's a little too easy. Let's pick something a little more difficult. 5, 4. We'll do 4. So the 4th position out of 6 is going to be the winner. Okay, so here's how this works. First, we need to call So I do a quick look, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. I don't see too many options in here. I need to get 3 diamonds on top of 2 diamonds that I've got in place, and I do that in short order. So I've got 5 diamonds now all together on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to put these into order. I'm going to stack these in the 4th position out of 6 hands. Now, the first thing you got to remember is that in the Hold'em situation, you're going to run the first 3 cards, milk the first 3 cards with an indifferent card on top. So it's going to be 1, 2. By the way, when I do this, it's my fingers reaching over my ring finger and middle finger and pinky, mostly my ring finger, reaching over the cards on bottom to make contact with the bottom card. That's what I'm gripping with. So I'm actually reaching over the cards to grab onto that card. So I've got 1, 2, here's 3. Now all I need to do is stack the next 2 cards of interest from the bottom into the 4th position out of 6. Here's the formula. You want to count the cards after the position first. So I'm first going to run the cards after position 4. So in my mind, I'm just counting after 4. 5, 6. So I run 5 and 6. Then I'm going to milk, and I'm going to count the numbers up to the position, the numbers before it. So that's positions 1, 2, and 3. But on the number 1, when I count 1, I'm going to milk this card. Okay, so I'm going to count 1. So I run a card and milk a card. That's 1, 2, 3. And that one's done. Okay, so I'm counting the positions after, then I'm counting the positions before. So I'm putting the cards under it after first, then I'm putting the cards over it before second. So again, I count, it's in 4, so I count 5, 6, milk on 1, 2, 3. So I put 3 cards on top of the card of interest, which is position 4, and I've already run off position 5 and 6. So you count after, then you count before, and you milk on the first one, and then that gets you to where you need to be. So now I'm going to in-jog 1, shuffle fairly, pick up at the jog, shuffle fairly, drop at the break. And now this is set where I could actually have somebody else do it. Now again, I could just say now it's fair if we cut the deck. Go ahead, you deal this out, or I could do it myself and do it very fairly. Or you could, as I said, you could do a shift. So shift, get your break, gesture, say, what was it, 6, 6, and 4, right? That's what we want. All right, let's try this out. There's the shift. And I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is all fair dealing because it's already been stacked up. There's my diamonds right there. Then I burn a card, and I should get a diamond, an indifferent card, and another diamond. Burn, and on the turn, I should get a diamond. Okay. Now, what I like to do is if I don't accidentally get a diamond here, if I do get a diamond here, I'll want to slow down a little bit. I know I've got diamonds on the bottom, but I might want to take a peek at this. I might give myself a bubble peek to see if the next card is a diamond or not. If it is a diamond, I'll burn it and then hope that the next one is not. Okay. If it is not a diamond, I might actually, if I have accidentally acquired a diamond here and I've got more than what I need by the time I get to, if I get diamond, diamond, diamond on the flop, I want to make sure I come up with 2 things that are not a diamond. So if I see that this one's not a diamond, what I will do, knowing that it's not a diamond, is I will either burn the bottom card and then deal this one off, or I can second deal burn. Okay, so I could do a push off second and then show that card. So you do, opportunistically, if you're trying to force a flush, be aware that you can accidentally oversaturate the community cards so that this doesn't work out quite right and you give everybody a flush. Okay, so, and I'm already running some risk that 2 other cards have, or another hand here has 2 diamonds. It's improbable, and it did not come out that way, but it could happen. So if I had another diamond in here, let's say I ended up with this accidentally, and I knew I had 2 more diamonds to go, I would get myself a peek in the off, and I would say everyone could look at the hands that you have just to buy myself some time. I know that this next one's not a diamond. I can burn a bottom card and then show that one. Okay. And then I might take another peek again to make sure that the next card is not a diamond, it's a heart. And then I can do the same thing. I can burn that card and then show that one. So you might have to increase the number of sleights that you're doing whenever you're running off of a stack like this. Obviously, you can stack anything. If you could call a 4 of a kind to the bottom, you could stack those up as well. And in that case, you would only really need to deal with the flop. You could just stack up the flop. So let's say we have 4 aces. So there's my 4 aces, and these are at the bottom of the deck, and I need to put these into a specific place. So 4 hands, position 2, will get it. Okay, so remember the formula. What I'm going to do this time, though, is I want to have 2 of them in the pocket and 2 of them in the flop. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run and milk 2 of those cards. So 1, 2. This is going to be my flop, and it's got a burn card on top, and it'll be ace, indifferent card, ace. Now what I want to do is I want to run this, stack this into place. So it's the second position out of 4. Remember, I'm counting what's after 2. So I'm going to run 3, 4, and then I'm going to do 1. Okay, so it's the indifferent card for position 1 plus the 1 on top. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing again. 3, 4, 1. Okay, now I can in-jog, throw on top, and it should come out right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Burn. 2 aces. Position 2 are the other 2 aces. Okay, so this can be very powerful too if you're using 4 of a kind. You don't have to worry about what falls out here in addition, because in a 4 of a kind, there can only be one set of a 4 of a kind. Nobody else can really challenge that. Unless somebody were to actually get a straight or something like that out of it, or a flush, which would be unlikely. So those are just some thoughts on that. One thing you might notice about this is when you're doing the milking procedure, it can be difficult to put it in position 1, because bringing in the card of interest always requires that you put 1 on top. So, if they say position 1, you're not up a creek, but you might have to do a little bit of handling to get that right. So let's say, for example, one, two, three, 4. Say we have 5 hearts. Let's say, get something big. 5, okay? Let's say 5, and it's going to be position 1. So the first thing I do is I run off my 3, and now I need to position the card of interest at position 1. So what I'll be doing is I'm going to run 5, everything after that first. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to milk, and that's going to be actually the 5th card of the next spot, if that makes sense. So this is 1, but I've got 1 indifferent card on top of it. So that's, I do 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I go 2, 3, 4, 5, if that makes sense. Now what I'm left with is a situation where I've got to milk 1 more, and I'll have an indifferent card on top. So what you can do is in-jog, run, lift at the in-jog, and I've got 1 card out of place, so I just need to thumb 1 off and get it out of the way. So now I should be right where position 1 is the card of interest. So I've got hearts, burn, burn, and now I've got my flush. Okay, so when you're dealing with one, remember that you're one off, and whenever you go to milk, you're actually picking up the last card of the sequence. So you're really just counting the cards underneath, and on the last one you're milking. So it's, or rather on the first of the second set you're milking. So in the case of 5, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, milk on 2, 3, 4, 5, milk, in jog run, shuffle to top, thumb off the top card to get it back out of the way. Okay, that's what you're doing. So anyway, a little more complicated. This is why I say that the bottom dealing is actually more accessible in a sense, because it's a little more direct in terms of what you're doing. But whenever you are stacking in this way, it does allow you to be clean at the moment when people are paying the closest attention. They're not paying very close attention during the shuffling part. Shuffling is shuffling. They're paying a close attention during the dealing part. And if you can get the muddiness out of the dealing, it can be very, very liberating to deal very freely and openly, and even to give it to somebody else to deal. So just a few thoughts on that. Some of the gambling sleights that I do. That's pretty much the limit for me in terms of gambling demonstrations that don't involve a stack. I've done some gambling routine things where I have a stack that's already set up, and then I'm just dealing with false shuffling, just doing false shuffles, or I'm doing stock retention shuffles, which this involves some stock retention in and of itself. But in terms of impromptu, I'll usually go with a cull, either culling from spread, sometimes even culling from cut, sometimes culling from spread call, but I prefer to cull a chunk for a flush from spread, and then I will top that off with a face-up shuffle call. And I'll put that down, turn it over, run them to the bottom, have someone cut, pick up the bottom half, ignore the top half, and then do bottoms from there using an Erdnase bottom deal for me. So anyway, I don't know if that's beneficial to anybody, but it's not something I talk a lot about because this isn't really a sleight heavy channel. And again, nothing about this that I would suggest is terribly high caliber. I do some of these things sometimes, and I say this is the Common Magician channel, but when I deal with some bottom dealing things in stacking, some people say, well, that's not very common. It's not, but some of the way I look at it is quite accessible. There are some bottom deals that are quite accessible, especially if you can break rhythm with discussion and banter. A straddle bottom, if you're soft enough and sticky enough, a straddle bottom is a very, very good bottom deal, right? It's one that's very, very easy to learn. And same kind of thing. If you're dealing with a smaller stack, all bottom deals are easier. So that's a very accessible bottom if you don't want to do the other one, right? As long as you got enough stick here to grip something. A straddle. See, I'm really dry. That's why I always do that Erdnase, because I need to put something on. I need some quick sort to soften things up. See, I don't do it. I don't do that well without help. Whereas with this Erdnase, in spite of that knuckle flash that everyone gripes about, with the Erdnase, I can do this in rhythm really, really well without any trouble. And the tells are insignificant. They're just not relevant to anybody except for people that know about it. So, and especially if it's out of rhythm, and especially if you pause before you actually do it, as you would for a Texas Hold'em demonstration. Once you get to the community cards, rhythm is out the window, So anyway, some thoughts on that, on some reflections and observations about it and what I do. Over the past week when I was on vacation, I did those other tricks that I talked about in some of the last video there, and I did some of this stuff too. Impromptu gambling demonstration. Fun stuff. So good luck with that. Happy magicking.